What was the reaction of you and your colleagues on Wednesday evening when the Senate Republicans passed the collective bargaining provision?
I think shocked in the way that they passed the legislation. They went to conference committee and then they weren't in conference committee only a very short time. Literally in 30 minutes they went from assigning it to conference committee to doing it in conference committee to the Senate floor and off to the assembly. The bill went. That's like rapid pace. Normally conference committees, hash out the differences that exist between the two houses or the two parties, but never, ever has anything ever gone that rapidly through conference committee. It's just completely ridiculous. But the issue of them taking collective bargaining out, that's what we were saying we wanted the entire time. So really, there was no better thing that could have happened than them saying that they couldn't take collective bargaining out because it was a fiscal issue, but then in the end they took collective bargaining out. So which time did they lie? The first time or the second time, or both times? It really is about them doing one thing and one thing only. They wanted to bust unions. And that's really what it's about. This is about the 2012 election, and they want to try to do everything they can to disenfranchise voters, try to make it harder for students to vote, and, on top of that, bust unions, because if you look at the Rachel Maddox show, where she really shows the top 10 individuals that contribute in campaigns are all Republican groups except for 3, and those 3 are unions.
Great. And then some of your colleagues have been saying that what has actually been happening in the past few days was illegal.
Right. There is an issue of whether or not, when they did the conference committee, whether or not it was legal or not. And one of the reasons that is because they didn't provide adequate notice. And there's certain open records rules that we have in Wisconsin that they didn't follow. And so there are individuals who are suing in that regard. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how the court decides that. But regardless of that, on April 5th, people have the opportunity to do something to take their anger, their frustration, their disgust, and they have an opportunity to vote against the individuals who supported him. Jeff Stone voted with Walker, didn't put up one amendment, didn't say anything, okay? And Prosser has already stated that he looks forward to supporting the Walker administration. Those are not acceptable things. We don't need a rubber stamp legislature, and we surely don't need a justice who has made his mind up before he ever listens to the facts. So people have an opportunity to do a few things: the legal system, the voting that's coming up on April 5th, and then the recalls. And so I've come back. I'm looking forward to my work, and this is what I'll be spending my time doing.
Great. And then you actually ran against Scott Walker for the county executive position.
I did.
Can you discuss that?
I ran against Scott Walker because he had mismanaged the county so badly. Everything from our assets to our parks, to our social services, all so badly mismanaged that the state actually had to take over our social service piece, and we had been fined by the federal government more than once because of his failures. It seems as if individuals, we just could not get enough momentum. In 4 months, I was able to get 41% of the vote with less than half of the money that he spent. But that's not the point. The point is that somehow or another, we didn't get that he was, as the county executive, running for governor and not really concerned about what he was doing with the county. And that's what he's going to do with Wisconsin now. He's not concerned about being the governor anymore. He's already got his eyes on going to the federal level, which is why he didn't listen to more than 500,000, nearly 1 million people who have come to the Capitol to say that they disagree. How can you be silent to all of those voices? So many people, so many voices, and so little change, that happened with the governor or with the rubber stamp legislators.
And so is it a fair assessment to say that Scott Walker began his attack on working families when he was county executive? He did,
and there's no question. Now, I admit that there are challenges that exist in the process of how we negotiate and what we negotiate away with unions. I'm not going to suggest that that's not so. I stood up on that side of the issue related to education reform. However, we need to have a table that people can come to and sit at so we can talk about our differences, because it's at this table that all hands can be on deck. to determine what should be done. What Scott Walker has done really is an assault on our democracy, to suggest that we should not have a table where people can come and talk about what the challenges are, that we don't talk about public safety or workplace safety, you know, with law enforcement or with correction officers, or teachers can't talk about class size and the effect that it will have on education. I mean, that's not acceptable. So he started this surely way back when he was running for county executive, which is one of the things that I tried to bring out during that time. But he had the money. Now he has the money because clearly, even though he doesn't listen to the people, he listened to his billion-dollar, contributors, the Koch brothers, so he thought, to talk about what they were doing and what the plan was. And this isn't just a plan for Wisconsin. This is really, the plan, the Republican governor's plan for, states across the nation. And so people need to get that what Walker is doing is really a reflection of what others will do. We've gone from Wallace to Walker, and people really need to wake up and get it. But I really believe that when we left, we slowed the bill down long enough and that we woke the sleeping giant. Walker has awakened the sleeping giant by his choices.
So do you think the stuff that Walker is proposing to do and the new anti-immigration legislation that is just surfacing today in the Assembly is a direct attack on communities of color in Wisconsin?
Oh, there's no question. When you also consider the voter ID bill that they're doing, it really is a poll tax. If people who are in the fourth poorest city in the nation do not have an opportunity to be able to have access to getting an ID, and that ID costs $28, it basically is a poll tax. I think the assault on immigrants is also another divisive thing. And as a leader, I would expect my governor to pull people together, to unite us, to make us proud of, being Wisconsinites. And instead, he's dividing us in every way that he can. And you'll see more divisive legislation and actions by the legislature and by the governor.
And when you and all your friends were hanging out in Illinois, what did you think about everyone that was showing up at the Capitol?
Oh my gosh, it was so amazing. But it was nothing like when I went just Saturday, the other day. Oh my goodness, it was just amazing to see all the people. And I was like, I want to be there. But I can't, because if I'm there, then this, their whole voice goes away. And so I was so proud to be a Wisconsinite, and that they refused to sit down while our governor tried to, high speed this, bill over them and really over workers' rights.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I'm just really excited that people are charged up. I want people to change their anger, their frustration, and the disgust that they have to voting. I need people to vote. I don't want us to be mad. I want us to vote. Because when we vote, then they will hear us.